I'm Steven Roy Goodman, host of Higher Education Today, a production of the University of the District of Columbia. Welcome back to the education program that connects you to contemporary issues, people, and institutions involved in the business of higher education. Today we'll be talking about financial aid and net price calculators. Dr. Sidney McPhee is president of Middle Tennessee State University, the largest undergraduate university in Tennessee. Middle Tennessee State University enrolls over 27,000 students and has an endowment of over $35 million. Dr. McPhee is senior author of Understanding the Campus Culture, an Introduction to College. Jeff Whorley is president of Student Aid Services, a company that helps students understand their eligibility for financial aid and helps universities satisfy the new net price calculator requirement. Jeff was the Democratic nominee for the 4th Congressional District of Tennessee and a former executive vice president of Sallie Mae. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks again for coming.
It's good to be here.
Well, Dr. McPhee, if we can start with you, I was kind of interested in how Middle Tennessee State University deals with financial aid globally, how you set the budget, and how you decide which students actually get the financial aid dollars.
Well, our university enrolls a large variety of students. We're a public institution, and of course, being a public institution, we put a lot of emphasis on helping students to achieve that goal of a college degree. Our budget is set based on the amount of money we get from the federal government for our student aid, the state. We provide significant fundings through the institutional support and also private funds from those who support our university through Endowment. We have a budget of over $500 million, about $200 million is given out in student aid to 21,000 plus of the 27,000 students. And it's a combination of need-based along with scholarship and merit. And we try to really create a nice balance between the two.
And can a student, if a student gets an aid package, is there a way that they can come back and say, well, we'd like to review that aid package?
Yes, we use technology, of course, in processing with approaching 27,000. That's a large number to be dealing with. So we use the technology available to help students complete the information about their family income, about their needs. Once that information is completed, based on the guidelines, a package is calculated and communicated. If there's new information that the student has regarding family income or other factors, they can give that information to the university, to a counselor. We have 24 counselors, full-time professional folks who review. Students are assigned a particular counselor, and that information can be factored in and adjustment could be made as necessary.
Fair enough. And Jeff, if we could bring you into this, is the way that Middle Tennessee State University does this, is this pretty similar package and process around the country?
Right. I think it is. There are exceptions on all sides at different schools. Some schools are more focused on the fall, on encouraging students to seek early admission, early application. So that can change the process. At the other end of that spectrum, there's students that are put on a wait list.
Right.
And so not knowing where you're going to go can impact the financial planning. But I think the core similarity of get your documents done in January of your senior year, also get your financial applications in, get your application to the school in, and then that's sort of a dual track process. You're waiting to hear how much is it going to cost me to go, and am I in? And at different schools that can happen in somewhat different order.
And if you don't mind saying a word or two about your company, because I thought it was kind of interesting that your company essentially does two things. You're helping students, if I understand this correctly, to figure out how much aid they may get, and then you're helping institutions essentially put a new calculator on their websites that will help them to streamline the admissions process, the financial aid process.
Yeah, student aid services, essentially what we do is a similar thing. It's all about estimating what is college really going to cost. But you can do it for an individual student, family, that comes to our website and says, "Now I've got 5 schools I'm considering, help me with this." But we're also providing similar technology for an individual school, such as MTSU, who is fulfilling the net price calculator mandate.
And what is that mandate?
So in 2008, in the higher ed reauthorization, Congress and the federal government required over 6,700 Title IV eligible institutions to post by the end of October this year a calculator, and that calculator will allow a student to come in, put in their personalized information, financial, academic, and then say, what is this institution actually going to cost me? As opposed to the sticker price that you would see in a catalog or at the bookstore or posted somewhere. What, in my individual circumstances and this particular school, what does it cost?
So this is going to help a student who's thinking about Middle Tennessee State University, Vanderbilt University, or any other school, and be able to see in advance how much it's likely to cost them?
Right.
Yes, and particularly as it relates to the package, the aid package that might be available, because as Jeff said, you know, you have the sticker price, you open the catalog, you see a particular figure, and we all have heard about the escalating costs of college tuition. But a lot of time that sticker price is not the actual, and it is helpful to know what the actual tuition fees, room and board, and what package, and have that information early. It will force families to make decisions earlier. We have a December 1 deadline for scholarship application because the demand is so high. It will also allow parents and prospective students to compare, and that's a good thing. So you need that technology. Technology is being used as a tool to help in making good, solid decision, good information, accurate information about the cost of a college education.
That's an incredibly important point. December 1 is the deadline for scholarship application. But Steve, as you know, with your work, you can't file the FAFSA until January 1. So right there, the kind of technology we're offering says, look, you can know more early, a more accurate estimate. And that's the gap that's being bridged, I think, both with the federal mandate and with what a lot of schools are doing on their own.
Fair enough. And in terms of, Dr. McPhee, if we can get, you mentioned the federal dollars before. How do those dollars actually flow to your campus? The federal and state dollars. Does the legislature say, here's a pot of money? Do you go begging for the money? Is it a combination? How does that work?
It's a combination. For an example, out of that $200 million, about $146 million include federal aid, grants, et cetera. Then you have a pot for loans, private loans. There's also a pot where I do go and sell the vision of the university to our donors and friends of the university through private foundation endowed scholarship. We have a pot from the state. For an example, in Tennessee, we have the Hope Scholarship that provides funding for students who meet a certain requirement, GPA and ACT, during their senior year. And so you put all those together, the student provides information about his or her situation. Most of our scholarship really go towards need-based. We have an excellent program called the Dream Scholarship that try to balance the need with merit-based, particularly for low-income students, high-achieving low-income students that can get a combination of some significant dollars that includes tuition and fees fully paid, along with a stipend each month that focus on that group, that lower socioeconomic group. But again, the majority of the dollars are based on need. Now, the scholarship piece, the majority of dollars from that pool is based on merit. And as a university that has outstanding academic programs in mass communication, recording industry, nursing, that we attract students from around the country for our honors college, which is one of the top world-renowned programs in the country.
But as you well know, merit scholarships are very controversial because the argument goes that for every dollar we spend on a merit aid package, we're taking it away from the pot of money. I'm not sure I agree with that argument, but that is an argument that we hear all the time.
Well, and I think that that's the importance of creating that balance. I don't necessarily agree that you are taking it away. I think there's a demand. As long as an institution does a good job of balancing that demand between the merit aid and need base. And as a public institution, we're very conscious about that balance, and I think we do a very good job of that balance. The majority, as I said to you, the majority of our funds are allocated to need base.
And in terms of using the endowment, this is something that's also been talked about quite a bit in higher education, as you both know, the issue of using endowment funds for more financial aid dollars. Do you see that happening either at your institution or around the country?
Well, we actually, when we go out and make the case for support for the university, it is an easier sell to get donors to support scholarship as opposed to bricks and mortar. And so we're in a capital campaign now, and we're being very successful in getting dollars that will be put in the endowment. You have the sustainability of that scholarship. Again, creating that balance as federal aid continues to, there's some discussion about cutting federal aid. We need to make sure that the balance is there. For us, that's really not a problem at this point.
I think something he touched on, the DREAM scholarship that they do, where you are targeting the low-income, high-achieving student. I think it was last week the Chronicle of Higher Ed had an article about how those students are doing and how maybe at some institutions they're not as represented as they might be. Right. So that's really bridging the point you made, where you've got need. Clear need there, low-income students, but they're high achievers. And I think what they're doing with that scholarship that combines the two is really a great thing and a model. The other point is I'm from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where Middle Tennessee State University is. I had 2 conversations over the last years with students who weren't in the Honors College. They weren't the students getting that merit aid. But I was just talking to them about what they thought about the Honors College. Beautiful building, really wonderful program. And in those 2 cases, they said, one said, you know, I took a class over there, and I'm so proud that we have it. Another one that had never taken a class, they referred to a friend that had. So even though, it's almost like a sports team, even though those students weren't participating, they're very proud of that building, very proud of the kind of students it's attracting, and it ups their own sense of the value of an MTSU degree.
And that's a fair point. And I mean, maybe we can say a word or two about honors colleges, not just at your institution, but around the country. Some people make the case that honors schools are essentially skimming students away from other parts of the universities. Other people make the case that they're great financial buys for the students lucky enough to get in. Other people are making the case that they are essentially institutions unto themselves.
And I think all of those points have some degree of legitimacy to it. For our university, we have done a very good job of integrating the Honors College throughout the university. So while to get an honors certificate you have a set curriculum, you don't have to be an honors student in that program to take advantage of the classes and the incredible facilities. We raised close to $7 million to build one of the finest facilities on a public university campus. And so we have students who come in and take an honors class who are part of our regular student population. But if you're going to get a degree with an honors certificate, there's a set curriculum and there's a thesis. So we try to address that question of it being separate and apart from the university. I think one of the recognition the university got for that effort, just recently, last year, Forbes magazine came out with its Best Buy, top 100 universities in America, top Best Buy in America. MTSU was ranked 57 top public university in America. And when Forbes put together their analysis about Best Buy, looking at the value of the education and the cost, and that's why I like this net calculator initiative, MTSU was ranked there as the 47th Best Buy in America. That kind of information, along with the net calculator, that allows families to get good information, sophisticated information. I might add that we are using the federal template, but we're also exploring other options to get more sophisticated, because the more information that parents and their prospective students get about the university and the costs, the better they are in making a good decision about that institution.
And so to play off this calculator discussion a little bit, and Jeff, maybe you can address this, if an institution is using the federal calculator now, why would Dr. McPhee or any other university president say, well, let's use another calculator?
Well, they're going through their process, and Dr. McPhee in thinking about that, can speak for himself on that. But I think his case would indicate why you might want to move to a more sophisticated calculator. So he has his honors college, for example. He's in competition in that honors college with my alma mater, Sewanee, University of the South, with Vanderbilt, maybe with Birmingham-Southern, with other honors programs, for example. Now he's also, for his student body, his more typical student, he might be in competition with the University of Tennessee or Tennessee Tech or Austin Peay. Well, that more sophisticated calculator allows those students that have a different merit eligibility to see that in a calculator. The federal template is great at saying the sticker price is probably not your price. It's not great at distinguishing, at telling that student that's eligible for a good bit of merit aid that might be a Buchanan scholar at MTSU. Here's the comparison of you going to Vanderbilt, Birmingham-Southern, Sewanee, and MTSU's honors college. It doesn't do that very well.
So the irony of this is that the more sophisticated calculators, if I understand what you're saying, are going to be helpful to the stronger students who may get better aid packages or better merit packages from different universities.
That is one of the things. But I would say that that dream scholarship, where it's a fairly sophisticated combination of need and merit, same circumstance. A more sophisticated calculator is going to give you a more accurate assessment of that dream scholarship.
But let's assume we have this more accurate assessment. Still, the bottom line is that some families are still going to say, Middle Tennessee State University didn't give me enough money, or this other university didn't give me enough money. I need more money. I mean, so and I realize this may not be exactly the expertise that we all have here, but I think a lot of families watching this today are going to be wondering, this is a nice conversation, but how do we get more dollars from the universities, and even if we have better net price calculators, or even if Middle Tennessee State University is incredibly forthcoming with all the dollars? We need more dollars because we're having trouble affording this.
That's a very good point. We run into that all the time at our university, and we are large growing. We only admit 60% of all the applicants at our university, and so the demand for scholarship dollars is very high. Obviously, there are a lot of factors that come into play in putting together that package. Your ACT or SAT scores, your high school GPA, and so getting accurate information, providing timely information to institutions would position the family to get more money, so to speak. So if you wait until February, March, or April, I don't care what, and we've seen it on our campus, what kind of resume you bring to the table, because of the demand. And there's a limited pool. There's a limited pool of federal dollars, there's a limited pool of state dollars, and of course, there's a limited pool of institutional and scholarship dollars. So my advice to that family is, first get your prospective student to do the best job he or she can do in the classroom, get good scores, and then be able to give good information about the need, because there's a combination, particularly with that dream scholarship, there's a combination of need-based and merit.
But why is there a limited amount of institutional aid? So let's assume that you and your faculty say that we're going to spend X amount of dollars next year. Why not X plus 3 or X plus 4? Where did that number come from?
I wish it were that easy. With
I realize
budgets,
it's not.
I just, as a public institution, I had to cut 33% of my budget. I said our budget's $500 million, $100 million comes from the state. July 1 of this year, that'll be down to $67 million. And we're hearing discussions now in Congress about cutting back on student aid. So, and of course, with the recession, the available wealth out there in terms of donors and endowments. So, to your question, that's why there's, I wish we had all the money that that is needed out there to provide need-based and scholarship. But the reality is, given particularly in this recession, we have to deal with limitations.
But certainly, but let's assume I was a terrific student and you really wanted me to come to your institution. You would find the money somewhere in your institutional budget, presumably. What I'm questioning, and I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine.
You just happen to be on the show.
I can take it.
You just happen to be on the show. But I ask this of a lot of institutions, which is if you can find the money for me, why can't we figure out a way, and maybe it's not just you, why can't we as a society figure out a way to fund from institutional dollars more students who really do need those dollars?
And we do that. I can speak for my institution. Remember I gave you the $200 million figure in terms of annual aid package? 146, if you round it off liberally, 150 million goes to need base.
Fair enough. And Jeff, how do you see this from a perspective of someone who's really immersed in financial aid in a very profound way? How do you think we can get more dollars to more students?
Well, if I could step back to your previous point, because you made a very good point about what do you do in the person, they use a net price calculator or they call it, however they do it. But when they get to the real number, it's not a number that they can handle, right? So that's one problem. I would say equally a problem, and this goes back to my previous career at Sallie Mae, but an equal problem is people that go into the pipeline, the going to college pipeline, and they never look at that number, right? So you got the problem is I look at it, and it doesn't fit our family's plan. It doesn't fit what I think I can earn in that career. But almost an equal problem, and maybe a more devastating problem, is they never take a look at that number. I think, don't again speak for Dr. McPhee, he's satisfied of having a winning proposition if people will just look at that number. If you're considering his honors college or RIM program or whatever program there, there's a big group of folks that don't look at the number. Now for the ones that do, what we find is college ends up, when you look at all your options, there ends up being an option more affordable than most people at first thought. Maybe not every option, but there is an affordable option out there for you. If you take a deep breath, if you go spend the 15 minutes on calculators or whatever, do a little research, there's an affordable option, even as much as college, the cost of college is going up.
Let me agree with Jeff on that. And I know of situations where, like the example you asked me, where they looked at it and they saw a figure and they said, we still need some more. And the university has dug deeper in its budget, not just for the scholarship, but need-based. So I think that's happening more often than the general public is aware of. Taking that additional step, getting information out and being persistent as a family and not just stepping away, looking at that first figure and say, we just can't afford it and walking away from the situation, I think usually results in very positive outcomes.
So you think that it's fair for a family to come back to you very politely and say, you know, we have looked at these numbers, can you please revisit that?
It happens. And I sometimes I get calls to my office as the president in situations like that. And of course, then I turn it over to our financial aid director and our professional staff and say, see what you can do here.
And in terms of what happens if a student comes to you and says, well, this other university gave me X amount of dollars, could you please revise or think about revising your aid offer for us? How do you handle that?
And I've heard that from parents. Typically the students, I guess, they don't come to the president, but I'd be out in the community and I've heard that. And certainly we do take a look at it, but again, there's the reality is there's a limit. I mean, you have a limit, and I think most presidents would agree with me. Wish we did not have to be constrained by the dollars, because the need is great, particularly the need base. It is, and I'm concerned about the cost. Even as a public institution, I'm concerned about escalating costs and what that means to the average American family. What we have tried to do is to focus more on increasing support as state funding dwindles and federal funding dwindles. We part of my job as a president is to get out there and raise more dollars from private funds to help supplement.
And do you spend, if you don't mind, if this might be too personal a question,
Sure.
but what percentage of your time do you spend out, trying to raise money?
Not personal at all. It's a major responsibility of a university president these days. And I would say that reaches up to the high 40s, and I see it even getting in the 50 and 60%. It's very significant.
So this is a big chunk of your job.
It is.
And Jeff, do you see any change in terms of college costs? Do you see any schools cutting their tuition in the near future?
My alma mater, Swanee, just made that announcement recently, which got lots of attention, and that's a bold move. New leadership there decided to go that route. I think more than that, what we're seeing is schools trying to figure out how to deal with the discounting that they do. Mm-hmm. And in your profession, I know you deal with this, and it gets back to that sticker price.
Right.
I look at a school, I know that's the sticker price, I know that there's another price that I may end up paying, right, and how do I get there? For the first time full-time student that is impacted by this net price calculator mandate, I think we are leaping forward in giving them better information. Something of a concern would be, look at all the students that don't fall in that category though. Students that transfer, students that are non-traditional learners. The good news is, we do see schools building technology to deal with those students. Seattle Pacific for transfers. Well, that's not a student that the mandate took care of, right, but they're doing it. Landmark and also Albright in Pennsylvania are doing some special things where you can see a total cost of the degree. University of Arkansas, West Virginia U, Alabama Huntsville, military calculator, Spanish calculator. So you're seeing schools step up and serve populations that the standard, this whole transparency move so far haven't covered.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you. I think that's just helpful information that both of you are providing to our viewers. Thank you both for being here. If you would like additional information about Middle Tennessee State University or about student aid services, please visit their websites at mtsu.edu or studentaidservices.com. Thank you for watching. We will continue to bring you quality discussions about important matters in today's college and university world. Please join me again for another edition of Higher Education Today. I'm Steven Roy Goodman, and you've been watching Higher Education Today.